Bienvenidos a Disrupt Everything, podcast series by Isra Garciaa. Reinvéntate a ti mismo y cambia lo que más te importa.
What if I tell you that you can master fear? What if I tell you you can get this extreme focus that gets you on flow state? But mostly we are surviving right now. We are in the midst of chaos, hysteria, and also uncertainty. And as you hear me talking in English, it means that we have today an international guest. It is. We have a very, very special international guest that I've been trying to catch around the world for some months, and finally he had the chance, and we have the chance, and he had the gap and the slot ready for us, and it's an honor, it's a pleasure. He's a great entrepreneur. He's a former U.S. Navy SEAL, a sniper. He's also New York Times best-selling author, and he's a member of IPO New York City and a former veteran advisor of the U.S. Small Business Administration, and also Harvard Business School APM 56. I'm talking about Brandon Webb, former Navy SEAL entrepreneur and best-selling author. Brandon, thank you for being in Disrupt Everything podcast series.
Muchas gracias. Glad to be here.
So this is it. We're gonna master and conquer fear, and you are disrupted.
Disrupt everything. Explora los márgenes o muere intentándolo.
Let's do it. Brandon has written several books: The Making of a Navy SEAL, The Easy Solution, Benghazi. Let me know if I don't know if I say it right, because sometimes my rusty English gets tricks on me. And Total Focus and Mastering Fear, a Navy SEALs book. Brandon, when I was researching about your profile, because this is all happening because Jock, who works with the Dr. Dan Brown, made an intro, and I could know more about the amazing job Brandon is doing. But when I saw the profile, what you've done, I see like a very versatile and very like adaptable profile, and a person and a professional too. So what will be if you have to put your life on perspective and draw a timeline, what will be the more prominent highlights in your life, and why?
That's a good way to put it. I've never thought about it that way. I would say, looking back, I was raised by hippie parents. My dad was from Canada. Mom was from America. So I would say that, I was born in British Columbia, Canada, up in the mountains. And I think that's an important time in my life, because I just remember kind of being born in the wild. I was running around the mountains and woods of Canada, was skiing as a 2-year-old kid. So there's definitely that point in time. I think another point on the timeline would be my father lost his business, his construction business, during the savings and loans crisis in the 70s, and him and my mom had decided to pursue their dream and buy a sailboat and move the family on the boat. So that was when I was about 10 years old. We left Canada, moved onto a sailboat, and sailed from Canada to California. Next one would be probably getting my first real job. I remember I worked this very crappy job on, it was a part-time job. I was mopping up, basically being a janitor. And it was something that I don't want to say it was beneath me. It was just not a very satisfying job. And then I got my first job on a scuba diving boat at 13 years old. And I think that job really made an impact on me, because for the first time in my life, I found that work could be a lot of fun. Like, you could get a lot of pleasure from work if you really enjoyed what you did and who you did it with. And that job was amazing. I worked on this recreational scuba boat out of California. We would take divers to the islands. We had a professional chef on the boat, a hot tub. It was kind of a party, fun environment to grow up in. And I learned how to scuba dive at 13. One of the captains taught me and certified me how to dive. But I think that was the first time that I really noticed that, wow, look, work can really be fun if you're passionate about what you do. And that is something I've always carried with me through life. And one of the reasons I joined the Navy SEALs in the military, and another reason why I left, because it started to not be fun for me. So that was 13. The other point on the timeline, my parents, we had done some sailing trips throughout Mexico, and my father and mom wanted to do this big trip to Australia. And I was about to turn 16. I really didn't want to go on this trip because I had this amazing job on the boat, and I was wanting to do things that a lot of 16-year-old boys want to do, like chase girls and hang out with my friends, that kind of thing. But reluctantly, I went on the trip. We made it to Tahiti, and my dad and I had a big argument, and I left home at 16 in Papeete, Tahiti. So that was a big kind of milestone for me. The next, and probably the first time I really had to kind of deal with fear in a big way. Just fear of uncertainty, fear of being on my own. Then 18, I joined the Navy. I would say 22, I finally made it to the Navy SEAL training. I graduated with class 215. There were 220 candidates that started the training program, and only 23 of us finished. So that was a pretty big accomplishment for me. I would say the next major milestone would be Afghanistan 2001, right after the terrorist attacks in New York City. I was deployed to Afghanistan with SEAL Team 3. I had my first son November 30th, 2001, while I was in Afghanistan. That was a pretty surreal experience for me, especially coming home to a 5-month-old baby boy. Another big milestone was 2006. I was finishing up my time in the Navy as a sniper course manager. So I was in charge of all the instructors, the curriculum, and it was at a time when we were graduating some of the top snipers in the world. Many listeners probably remember the movie American Sniper, based on Chris Kyle's life and experience. Chris was a friend of mine. also came through the sniper program as a student. But in 2006, I decided to leave the Navy because it started not to be fun to me. I'd hit burnout, and I knew it was time for a change. I wanted to spend more time with my family. And that was an important time in my career because I was giving up a very established, accomplished career in the military. I had been promoted early twice up until that point, and I kind of could have done anything I wanted to. But I ended up deciding to make the decision to leave. And my parents were very entrepreneurial. So I knew I wanted to explore entrepreneurship. Fast forward, 3 years later, 2009, it was the financial crisis, and I had lost my first startup. I lost everything. I lost my life savings. I lost my wife. She decided to divorce me, but she was just, for her own reasons. But fortunately, we were able to maintain a really good friendship to this day. And we chose to have a good relationship because we both had the common bond of the love for our children. It's a very unusual relationship we have, in that we decided early on that the kids would stay with her to have a stable home, that I would visit or take them on trips in the summer and winter and spring breaks. But it's worked for us. And it was, wasn't always easy, but I and I'll mention, I think I'm going to write a book on divorce, because I don't think a lot of people put the kids first in divorce, and divorce just ends up tearing people apart and families apart. And I think that there is a better way. So I'm looking forward to that book next. But 2009 was a tough time for me. It was the first time in a long time that I could remember, losing everything and being afraid of what was to come. But I had worked a lot with positive psychology and consultants for the professional sports and Olympic gold medalists during my time as a sniper instructor. And so I knew I needed to change my mindset and start focusing on all the positive lessons I learned. So that was a big turning point for me. And I started thinking about my next business. So I ended up going to work for a big defense company. It was making a lot of money, mostly out of just the practicality of having to make a living and kind of rebuild my savings. But I knew I wanted to start my own business. So I started writing on the side, and writing got me into blogging, and blogging got me into digital media. And then digital media got me into e-commerce. And so today, I would say the pivotal moment on the timeline there was 2012. So I started my digital media business, which I still own and operate today. I bootstrapped a company to 8-figure.
Right? Software.com.
Yeah, software.com. And our survival store, loadoutroom.com. Along the way, I built a men's subscription box, which I actually sold that business 4 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Sold it to our biggest competitor. But let me see on the timeline, obviously, starting the business in 2012 was huge. 2019, let me back up a bit. I would say the next decision I made was to move to New York City in 2000. That was 2014. And my business grew like 5x in 1 year just by moving to New York and being around the right people. And I think that's another important lesson is you are who you hang out with. And New York is a very competitive city. It kind of demands the best out of you, no matter where you come from. And it's one of the things I love about a city like New York. So that was a big moment. Next one would be 2019 was a very tough year for me in business. I had an employee I hired that ended up getting addicted to drugs and alcohol. He was in charge of product procurement for us and ended up spending about $2 million more than he should have. So not only did he kind of go off the tracks with his own life, he almost put us out of business in the same process. So 2019 was a year that was very stressful for me because I had to kind of dig out of $2 million worth of product that we really, the basic math was we bought more than we sold. So I had to renegotiate with vendors who were very unhappy. They weren't going to get paid on time. I would lay up in my bed at night thinking, holy shit, am I going to lose my business? And so it was tough. And I think that also, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So what that taught me, thinking about one, and I'd have to take responsibility as the CEO of the company. I should have been paying more close attention. But, it just showed me that the people in your company are what matters most. And so today, we really hire for culture, and promote from within. And I do a much better job at screening our candidates, and using a lot of psychological AI platforms like Predictive Index to really make sure that somebody is going to be a good fit for the team. And I would say also 2012 was the year I started my business, but also the year I had put out my memoir called The Red Circle, and it became a New York Times bestselling book, against many people, even some family members thought, oh, what are you doing writing a book? So that was definitely an accomplishment as well. But today I run e-commerce and media business, kind of an ecosystem of content and commerce. We also have a couple podcasts. So I know how challenging it is to run a podcast. I think we're at over almost 500 episodes.
Wow.
And so, it takes a commitment, to put these podcasts out on time, and you have to keep going. It's the only way to build audience. You can't do a show 1 week and then take a week off. You got to keep doing it. But yeah, I think that catches everyone up. And I love Spain, by the way. Very, very fond memories of Madrid and Barcelona.
Well, you are most welcome next time. I invite you to eat a paella here in Valencia, where I live, which is, one of the most famous things in the world. So if you want to take my word, you got it. You got it. All right. You'll have good time there if you stop around.
I think the best meal of my life was in Madrid. It was at what was the name of that restaurant? It's a Michelin star restaurant in Madrid. It'll come to me, but it was one of my top meals of all time.
Really? Madrid is also such a beautiful city. So Brandon, you have an amazing memory, and see where so many lessons from we hire from culture and promote from within is quite powerful. And in this timeline you just draw like from from in our minds, but you draw and we could imagine you going through each milestone. How do you transform from you, because the transformation is not only that you've been from 50 years old scuba diving guy to Navy SEAL, and then more than entrepreneur, you're quite a businessman because you're CEO of a company. What's been the motivation and the drive behind every major change you've made?
I think it has to do with purpose. The whole question of mankind is what's the meaning of life, and what I think it's we have to find our own purpose and define our own meaning through that purpose. And even one of my favorite books is by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, and it all comes down to purpose. And for those that are unfamiliar with the book, he was a psychologist that was living in the concentration camps of Nazi Germany as a Jewish prisoner, and just like terrible living conditions, and was an amazing book. But I think it comes down to purpose, because in purpose changes throughout your life. For the first part of my my teenage years, I held on to this purpose to be a Navy SEAL, and that lasted until 2006, and then I had to reinvent myself, and my new purpose was to really throw myself into entrepreneurship and business, and really, I think of myself definitely as a business professional, but I'm more of a creator. I love to create things. Whether it's decorating my own apartment in New York, to making product, making movies, writing books, I just like to create stuff, and that's kind of my purpose today.
And Brandon, why was your purpose being a Navy SEAL?
So I wanted to prove to myself that I could do something of significance that was very hard and was a big accomplishment. And I'd always wanted to be, since I was a kid, and actually I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and I just didn't have the grades. And so I ended up reading a book about the Navy SEALs, and I saw that, okay, this is something I can join the Navy. I can have a try at being a Navy SEAL. It'll pay for my college education. And it was something I could do, within my circumstance. And so that was kind of the core driver for me. I wanted to prove it to myself that I could do something not too many people had been able to do.
Well, you said only 23 people, right? Passed?
Yeah, it still has about a 90% failure rate. It's one of those things where everybody, a lot of people watch the movies and they think, oh, this is a cool job. But when it gets down to it, not too many people, have the stomach to deal with the training, which the selection process is about 7 months long, just to kind of get to the point where you can start training as a SEAL. So they want to see who's never going to quit, no matter what kind of circumstance they throw at you.
What do you think is the hardest part of the training?
It's the cold. You're cold and wet the entire time. Like, an example would be, in the first part of training, there's very physical and mentally rigorous, and you learn to kind of adapt to that. So your new normal is of what's capable is 10, 20x what it is for a normal person. But the fifth week, you go through a hell week, which means they keep you up from Sunday to Friday with no sleep. And it's not just like doing silly things. You're swimming in the ocean at 2 a.m. for 2 miles, then followed by like a 14-mile beach run. Then maybe you have a break to eat, then you're off, doing some 20-mile paddle with the boats. It's just nonstop. Then, in the middle of the night, they put you on the steel concrete pier and start spraying you with water, and they're very closely monitoring you to the level of they push you right to the level of hypothermia and just keep you right above that margin.
Wow.
And guys just are losing their minds, because imagine like Sunday night doing everything I just described, and you're thinking to yourself, how the hell am I going to make it to Friday? Like, this is crazy. And you just realize it's like life, life is a motherfucker. Like, I've lost my best friend. In my 20s, I lost most of my friends to the war. And I had to those are hard friendships to replace. I've been grateful for like the organizations I belong to. But life is tough. Like, you're going to lose people you love. You're going to fall in love and have your heart broken. You're going to lose money and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, you realize that the most precious thing is our health and probably our autonomy, our ability to kind of do and go where we want. But life is not easy, and you have to take it sometimes just 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. And that's what it was like for me in SEAL training. I never thought about, the big picture. I'm like, okay, I just one thing at a time, just get to the next thing.
And would you say that, what would you say that were your most vital or critical learnings acting as a Navy SEAL since you decided to train until you decided to quit?
I think mindset would be the one thing I would take away from SEAL training. I was, going through that training and becoming like living as a SEAL. We had a saying that you have to earn your SEAL pin every day. You can't, and the saying goes, the only easy day was yesterday. So you can never rest on your past accomplishments. You're being judged by your peers by your performance each and every day. But it comes down to mindset. The mindset of what I think you see now that I've had the opportunity. When I was a SEAL sniper instructor, we got to work with the world's best performance coaches and talk to some of the Olympic gold medalists as well. And it's kind of that mindset of a champion, that you're just, you're going to win no matter what it takes. And that you have it within yourself to outlast the competition. But it really is that kind of positive mindset, that mental toughness that I think I took away from the SEALs that has really helped me as an entrepreneur, because I didn't just quit and go get a job after I lost my first business. I did go back to work, but it was with the full intention of starting my next business. So, I think mental toughness is probably the biggest thing.
And how, so if you're about to describe what it takes to create this mindset and this mental toughness, and how it helps from being a Navy SEAL to an entrepreneur. What would you say about this process, or what it takes to build this mental toughness? So my question will be also, is possible for us to build this mental toughness, which I think is also something related with the red circle, total focus, and conquering fear, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it doesn't come, it's not something you can do in a couple weeks. It takes years to kind of develop the habit of basically setting goals and achieving goals. And I think it's why you see a lot of people climb mountains, take trips, like the pilgrimage in Spain, right? That's another one. I've had friends do that.
Compostela.
Yeah, I've had friends do that. So that stuff's important because it proves to whoever's doing it internally that they can basically set a goal and achieve it, and do something that most people would not do. Most people don't want to run a marathon. They don't want to climb a mountain. They don't want to do this 500-mile pilgrimage. So I think, making those contracts with ourselves and upholding them is important, and it's a part of the process to kind of build that mental toughness, because then it builds confidence. And then what you're doing is you're making a habit of goal setting and achieving those goals. And I think that's very important. And once you kind of prove to yourself that you can do it, it's more that, I think that's what's important, less so than, impressing other people. It's having the confidence inside yourself to know that doesn't matter what anyone says. You have that kind of internal fire to do whatever you set your mind to within reason.
Don't you think that today, I call it the soft generation? We are so soft. I mean, we just, laziness is winning the game all the time. How can we develop, or how can we work on this Navy SEAL mentality and Navy SEAL focus? What will be the starting steps for that?
I would choose something that a person is, maybe you've always wanted to do, but just keep putting off for whatever reason, and just get it done. I got my pilot's license, 15 years ago, and I got it done in 2.5 months. And it's been one of the best investments I've made in myself. You don't know how many people, including yesterday, riding in the Uber home. I had a new radio installed in my airplane, and I flew it back from the repair station to another airport. And I got picked up by the Uber driver, and he was just like, "Wow, you're a pilot. You fly your own plane. I've always wanted to do this." He's like, "I'm 58 years old." And I told him, I was like, "Why don't you just do it? Like, you're not." He's like, "Well, I'm too old to be a professional pilot." I'm like, even if that's the case, like, do it for yourself and just enjoy the flying, and because life goes by, and there, I can honestly tell you, I can't think of one thing on my mind right now that isn't, I have goals, but I've accomplished everything that I've wanted to do. Primarily, I've set out and done it. And if new stuff comes up, I put it in my list, and I know it's going to get done, unless I die first. But it's like and it's tough. I hear the same thing from other people about the soft generation, but I would, each generation is different. I've seen a lot of real go-getters in the millennial generation and even Gen Z now. There is a lot of fire I see inside kind of the new generation. So I think we always, there's just like this, always have a percentage of the population that kind of falls into that laziness category. But I do think we have a lot of things easier today and a lot of things harder. Like we're past generations, really the baby boomers did a terrible job of taking care of the environment, and we're all kind of dealing with that now, right? It's one of the beautiful things I like about this COVID situation is that it's kind of taking us back and realizing what's really important is our health, the health of the planet. And never has there been a time in the planet's history when the entire world goes on pause and has a chance to kind of think about this stuff. So, and that's where I always try and find the positive in any type of situation. I think, the whole coronavirus quarantine is a great time for self-reflection, to define purpose, and really kind of come out of this with a different perspective on really what's important in your life.
And stronger, right? It's a chance to reinvent ourselves and also disrupt the way we work, the way we live, like raise our consciousness and awareness about this world too. And it has, I guess, or I assume that the self-discipline is very important for you, and how this is related with confronting fear, the method, because your last book, Confronting Fear and Conquering Fear, it has about the method, right? And how is this all related? And can you tell us about the method for confronting fear?
Yeah. So, the big thing about fear is to really acknowledge that, our relationship with fear is what matters most. Everybody from LeBron James to Ronaldo, the football player, to me, the Navy SEAL, to the astronaut, my friend who's an astronaut, Scott Kelly, we all have fear. And it's just how we choose to develop our relationship. Fear is what really matters most. Fear is something that we live with till the day we die. But I feel like fear, if thought about and harnessed in a certain way, can really be a powerful tool for growth. And for one, people have to really strip down and get to the root cause of fear, right? Like I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm too afraid to switch jobs. And really, like in most cases that I've found, it's not necessarily leaving the job they don't want to be in. It's more of like what they're really afraid of is running out of money. So and then once you address that, it's like, look, that's a valid fear, but you can deal with that. You can start saving money and creating a cushion, or start, a side hustle, or start looking for that job you really want on the side while you still maintain your current income level. But it's kind of, I think a lot of people, they bump up against that and they kind of stop at that point, as opposed to trying to solve around it. And that's what I think really separates people who are successful from those who aren't. And I, my personal definition of success is somebody that is living their purpose, right? I don't care if that's running a yoga resort in Bali or running $1 billion hedge fund in New York City. If somebody is living their purpose on their terms, to me, that's success.
And how on earth can we live our our purpose today? I mean, how can we find it? Because a lot of people sells us on the idea of we have to find our passion, our purpose, but we get sometimes we lost. We and I can see it when I approach people on seminars or workshops, speakings, or like programs, educational programs. Like people doesn't have a clue where to find, or maybe they have in front of them. How is this relation of purpose and fear? Is it related, or is something hiding the other thing, or how on earth we can find it?
I think it, for one, maybe it does take some time to kind of figure out what really makes us happy. But the point is, we have to keep trying, and for sure we know that if we're doing something that makes us unhappy, and we keep doing it, we should make a change. And I feel like if somebody is really stuck on what they want to do in their life, I think they should try a lot of different things, and to keep moving, keep
experimenting, right?
Yeah, keep experimenting. Just don't settle into this routine, and eventually something will stick, right? It's even in my own kids. I've worked really hard to expose them to different cultures, different careers, always telling them like they're in charge of their own destiny. Don't ever let anyone tell them differently. And it's nice to have, now, hear my, 16-year-old daughter be like, yeah, I want to take a trip overseas to Europe to study French. And she's independent. She's started her first business when she's 16. So it's nice to see her kind of like experimenting, and kind of following her own path, as well as my son. But I think the other thing is, I also run into this a lot where people just want the answer. Nobody has the answer for you. You have the answer. It's up to you to figure it out. No one's going to figure it out for you. And those that let people figure it out for them are usually stuck in careers where they're miserable because the parents wanted them to be a doctor or go into law or run the family business, and they're really not doing what they want to do. It's up to us. Like we can only make ourselves happy and define our own purpose in life. And I think that's why a lot of people, look, sometimes people, they live a purpose, in my case, the Navy SEALs, and they have to find a new one. Yeah. And it's something that it's just this, but once you develop really good habits around, especially when we talk about fear, when you make a habit of confronting your fears, and when you realize that fear is a necessary component to everything we do. I mean, fear keeps us alive. Fear can be a great motivator. Every time I give a public speak, I get a little nervous. I don't know any public speaker that doesn't get a little bit nervous before giving a talk. But that nervousness, when you realize, okay, that nervous energy is going to help me give a better speech, I'm going to make sure that I prepare so I have the confidence to kind of give the talk that I want to give. It's just like for me, jumping out of an airplane, I would get nervous before every skydive. But once
it's
you're
the sign,
out,
right? It's the sign that you are doing something right.
Yeah.
And then Brandon, you were talking about habits, skills. What are the habits, skills, routines, abilities, and something that you maybe just also take with from SEALs that you are applying today and you think are useful?
I would say, and I'll be totally honest, I try and work on myself every day, and I'm not immune to being on the mobile phone too much, and so it's always, I think a constant struggle to kind of refine. But the big habits that I think I've taken away from my time as a Navy SEAL is routine, having that kind of strict routine, especially in the morning. I exercise every day. I do my stretches every day. I eat a healthy diet. I also have a habit of I can execute. It's been almost a strength. It's a strength for sure, but sometimes a weakness because I have a tendency to take on too much. But I get shit done. Like I know that people are. I'll tell you this. I started when the pandemic broke out, and I had sold the Crate Club business. I went to my head of marketing, Alda, and I asked her, "Hey, get with the team and find us an opportunity that we can go after and try to start a new business in this environment." And we found, after all the research and data, that kids' vitamins were a big opportunity because it's a massive, like almost $200 billion market in the US alone for supplements, and no big brand was advertising direct to consumer on the internet. And so
there you go.
So I was like, okay, let's do it. So we bought Tiger Vitamins, tigergummies.com, and we're about to launch that business this coming Monday. We start selling online. I remember,
I can say you execute, man. This is something really clear since we started talking in this interview, man.
And I remember she's an all-star marketer. And I was pushing her and I'm like, "Hey, what's the status?" And she's like, "Well, I have all these questions. Have we even written a business plan?" And I said, "Here's the business plan. Like, sell the vitamins, make money, and repeat." It's like, that's like, we're going to do that. And if we're successful, then we kind of like, okay, we can formulate, a rough structure of a business plan. But I don't need to spend 2 fucking weeks doing market research. We've done the research. We know there's an opportunity.
It's just taking action.
Yeah, let's sell it. And then we adapt as we go. And I think too many people spend so much time trying to make the perfect plan. And they're planning, and I'm already like on to the next thing because I've learned from the 3 mistakes I've made.
Yeah, you're prototyping like in a startup every step along the journey.
Yeah, and the way I can explain it is imagine taking a trip around the world on a sailboat, and you're tied up to the dock, and you know where you want to go. You want to do this round the world trip, but you're like, what's the weather going to be tomorrow? What's it like 3 weeks from now? You can't fucking predict what's going to happen with complete accuracy. You have to like untie the boat, raise the sails, and start sailing on the trip. And then you trim the sails if the weather's getting rough, the wind picks up. You adapt to that environment. That's that's the marketplace. And you're never going to pick the exact day to untie that boat where you're going to sail off around the world and not run into any bad weather. It's just not going to happen. And that's how I think about, business in general. Is like, you have to be adaptable, make a good plan, execute, but trying to get the perfect plan is never going to happen. And you're going to get this paralysis, and just plan. And I remember all the leftover emails. She's like, okay, I got it. Off we go.
That's the power of taking action. It just gets you ahead of everybody. I was listening your testimonial and your story, and I was so resonant with me, because that's the story of my life. I've never been so good on anything, but I've taken action since I wake up until I go to sleep, and I accomplish so much that it can get you. Yeah, as you are. I in this quarantine, I wrote a book. I launched 3 projects, and I still a lot of things cooking. It's just, and then you see people just complaining on planning or thinking how am I gonna save my business, my job, and they're losing the only thing we have, which is time, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you, and I love to hear that. I love to hear that stuff. I have, in the last 4 weeks, I've sold a business. I started a new business. I have, and I sold it for a lot of money. I started a new business. I created a mural. I have a home in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I was like, I have this beautiful Spanish house, when the Spanish built the first settlement in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
I have one of those big open courtyards, and I said, I want a mural here. And I asked my assistant, find me a muralist. And finally, and at first, like, no one's going to do it. I'm like, there is an artist out there that will want to work and get paid money to create something. So I created this beautiful mural with this local artist, Edgar, in Puerto Rico. I raised $5,000 to donate to one of my favorite restaurants in New York with my Harvard group. Like, we raised a little bit of money to help him out with the restaurant. And I'm about to sell a book. I just finished a manuscript, a novel about a serial killer on an aircraft carrier. So, yeah. And then I listen to these people bitching and moaning and complaining, and it's like, oh, what am I going to watch next on Netflix? Not that I don't watch Netflix. I love Netflix, but look, this has never been a better time to get shit done. Like, you have.
Amen, man. I always say that we have time enough. The only thing is we waste too much. But people keeps on insisting on telling us that life is short. No, life is long if you make a good use out of it.
Yeah.
But and Brandon, just I feel we can keep going with this, but I know you're short on time, so I'm gonna get like a more rapid fire question. So, Brandon, what's the practical keys that you can take from each of your 5 books? If you can say one practical key from each one, what will be that practical key?
I would say, find your purpose. That's the first thing. Find your purpose, because without your purpose, you're kind of like wandering around the forest, bumping into things.
And this key comes from this, which book?
That would be The Red Circle.
Okay.
I would say I wrote a book called Total Focus. That would be find one thing and focus on that. You can do multiple things later when you have more capacity. Having a successful career enables you to kind of take on more capacity. But I see the common fault in a lot of young people, whether or not they're wanting to do a job or start a business, they're chasing too many things at once. You have to focus on one thing and pursue it. And also know the difference between a job and career. You know, a career is a series of jobs in a specific domain that are building accomplishment over time, like a doctor rising to the highest levels of medicine, or software engineer, the same. But I see too many people like jumping, like they take a job as a waiter, then they're taking a job working on a fishing boat, and it's like boom, boom, boom. None of these things kind of collectively add up to much. But focus, I would say focus for total focus would be another one. On mastering fear, I would say, you know, realizing that you have to change your relationship with fear, and accept fear as a powerful tool that can be used to motivate. And then you have to we have a saying in the Navy SEALs: when you get ambushed, it's a bad situation and you have to get off the X. And I feel like fear is the same thing. You have to get off the X, because you can't sit there. You're going to get killed in an ambush if you just sit there and return fire. You have to get the hell off the X. So that would be my advice for mastering fear.
Okay. Brandon, what has been your you want to add any thought on Benghazi and the Easy Solution?
No, I mean, those books were more, you know, I was contributing to those books as a piece of journalism, because our media, part of our media sites cover foreign policy and security news.
Okay.
So that was more like a journal.
Oh, okay, great. I see. What's been your biggest failure as an entrepreneur, and also as a father, and your biggest success as an entrepreneur and as a father?
My biggest failure as an entrepreneur was probably not investing and taking the time to really build a solid team. I caused myself a lot of pain by just hiring people because you needed to hire somebody. You needed to get somebody in, and not realizing that, you know, and for instance, I hired, back to my 2019 story, I felt sorry for this guy. And I hired him, but I didn't realize, like, you know, I'm putting the whole business at risk, other people, the employees in the company at risk, by bringing this person on board, who, you know, if I had have really paid attention and screened, I would have never let him in today. Like, I would have known that he had this like developing drug habit. And this was a guy that had just been married, bought a home. By the time I let him go and got him in, helped get him into a rehab program, 6 months later, he was dead in his mid-30s of overdose.
Wow.
And he almost brought down my entire business. And so, you know, really that was a mistake that I kept making over and over, and was causing me a lot of drama and pain. And so I really now just really hire slow and fire quick. I know that's a cliche, but it's so true. But the people are so important. The people and the chemistry are what really makes great companies. And hiring, you know, motivated, smart people that can do amazing things, and you can kind of nurture and promote from within. That's, yeah, I've been to Harvard Business School. It's proven, the data is out there those are the best companies that hire really well. They build a good culture. They train and invest in their existing team. They don't hire externally, very rarely, and they build this great culture internally. But that's the business failure. As a, the dad failure question, it's tough for me. I don't, I think looking back, I probably could have spent more time with the kids. But I think I've done, a pretty good job as a dad. And I have, 3 amazing kids that are all independent, incredibly successful, living their own very, very different interests, and living their own life. And it's great to see. My youngest 13 is really into basketball and writing. My daughter 16, she's incredibly creative. She started her own business doing art on sneakers. That's led her. She's doing her first clothing line right now.
Wow.
She got invited to the Adidas Creator Lab.
Entrepreneurial also life.
Yeah. My oldest son is a debate champion, academic All-American, like into computer science, got a scholarship for doing artificial intelligence at one of the universities in the US. We actually looked at Carlos III in Madrid for him because they have a good computer science program, but he ended up, he's going to study in the University of Leeds in the UK.
Leeds. I know this university very well. I've been teaching classes there.
Yeah, so he's going to take computer science and artificial intelligence there. So it's great as a dad. It's great to see your kids independent and following their own path, and know that they have the confidence to do that. So I think that's been a huge success.
Sorry,
go ahead.
What are you saying? No, go ahead.
As an entrepreneur, I think, I had a successful exit of one of the businesses, but I do think, I'm just not afraid to grow and experiment and continue to learn. I think the learning never stops. There was a point where a couple years ago, where I was having a lot of growth in one of my companies, and it's easy to get arrogant. And I went to this 1-week Harvard course, and it just opened my eyes up to how much I didn't know.
Nothing else nothing better than going there to realize, right?
Oh yeah, I was blown away and how arrogant I was. I said, okay,
really good move, really smart. I'm going where the best are. So let's see how I see the world. Yeah,
and now I have the program I was in is a 2-year program for business owners, and I have 90 friends all over the world that are incredibly successful, and it's been an amazing experience. And that group is very close. We help each other, and we've been incredibly helpful to each other during this time of coronavirus and business disruption. And it's just proof that you really do need to hang out and surround yourself with very positive, talented people, because it forces you to kind of up your game.
Brandon, I wonder what a former Navy SEAL says to himself to self-motivate you. What do you say in your darkest moments, or when you need to motivate or empower yourself? What do you do?
I'll read you my mantra that I look at usually daily, if not weekly. I just pull it up on my phone. So this is kind of my self mantra. So it goes like this. I am open to change and always learning and improving. I love my kids, friends, family. I'm a creator of things and a New York Times bestselling author. I always look for the best in people. I treat others like I want to be treated. I wish happiness on other people. I'm a successful entrepreneur and have the knowledge to start or buy a business and be as successful as I want to be. So that's kind of like my little daily mantra.
Wow, that's
and I developed.
Thanks for sharing with us.
Yeah, you bet.
Brandon, just finishing and wrapping up, what will you be your business or the books you just gifted the most?
I mean, the book that I'm most proud of is Mastering Fear, because it's been printed in the most languages. It's a piece of work that I know has helped a tremendous amount of people. It was inspired by me teaching my best friend, who's a very successful venture capitalist and author, Kamal Ravikant. I taught him how to overcome his fear of the water in 1 week. And he said, you have to share this with the world. You have to write a book. So Mastering Fear is one of my favorite books. And I was thinking about what do I do next, right? And I think it's this book on divorce, because there's not too many resources out there for people that do get divorced, especially with children. And there is a way to be happy, raise kids, and have a relationship with your ex. And the world's changing, like the way we traditional relationships and family is changing, I believe. And more and more people are having, life partners. They're not necessarily getting married, but they're having children. So the fact that in America, 50% of marriage or more end in divorce, I think that's going to be a good book that'll help a lot of people.
It is. Can't wait. I hope I don't need to use it. Well, I'm still single, but let's see. Who knows? But the Mastering Fear, I would love to. I'm gonna order through Amazon, because I would love to have. Because I love anything has to do with fear. Yeah, have a good love story with it. So, for rapid fire questions, what's your personal recommendation on what book would you recommend us to read?
For sure, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. That would be a top.
And a podcast?
A podcast that I would recommend?
Yes.
That's a tough one. I would recommend Joe Rogan's interview with Elon Musk, because I thought that was a fascinating podcast and very, very interesting to hear Elon talk about the things that he does in life, and to the point now where he said I remember a point in the interview where he says, there's plenty of other things that interest me. He said, at this point in my life, I feel like solar energy and space colonization is my biggest contribution to humanity. Like that's an important contribution that needs to be made. And he knows that he has the capacity and the wealth to kind of do that. And he's proven it. Like the guy has disrupted space industry in the US. They're about to send one of the first manned spacecraft launched from the US in decades, thanks to Elon Musk. And he's revolutionized the electric car and made it mainstream. Imagine where electric cars would be without Elon Musk and Tesla. We would be decades behind.
That's a good question. Yeah, just made us think, and sometimes not undervalue what we have, right?
Yeah.
And when you think of success, which person or who comes to your mind?
I mean, I look at again, how I kind of define success is somebody that lives their purpose. I think about people like Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, LeBron James, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. Those are the kind of people, wide variety of backgrounds, but kind of like living life on their own terms, living and doing what they truly love and want to do.
And what's your most precious gadget below $100?
Oh man, I would say my most precious gadget would probably be my backpack, or if it was a tech gadget, I have this little MyCharge that powers my phone. I can get like 5 charges off of it, and I take it with me all over the world. And because, we have so much computing power in the mobile phone these days, it's such an important part of our lives, and that little charger gadget saved me more than once.
Save lives. And any hidden or any secret ritual or secret ritual you have?
I like rituals. My family ritual is, I spend every winter with my kids skiing. That kind of brings us together. Personal, my personal ritual, how I start my day with, I have a yoga practice, and then how I end my day. I'm friends with Tony Robbins' son, Jarek. And I was talking to Jarek because I was struggling with living in a busy city like New York. And it's like, when do I put down the phone, right? And so in kind of how do I end my day and enjoy some, time with friends and watch a movie at night. So I journal to end my day. That's kind of my closeout. And then it lets me kind of transition. So that's a ritual I do.
Brandon, he's such a prolific and really productive and really enlightening conversation and interview. And so for ending, what would be the message you would love to share with us? What would you like to say to every listener on this podcast? And to every listener of this podcast, what would be your advertising or your positive impact advertising? I would put it that way.
Yeah, I think I've said it a few times on here, but I would tell everybody how important it is to find their purpose. It, like, without having a purpose, it's like, I gave the example of the boat, right? It's like untying a boat and just sailing off with no plan. Like, where the hell are you going? Like, don't untie the boat unless you know where you're going to go. So I feel like, once you find that purpose, even if it's like pointing in the right direction and you're doing something, you're taking courses, you're meeting with people, and even if it's in that general direction of finding the purpose, you have, like, it's just something we all have to do, and then also realize that it will change, and you'll have to find it again, most likely. But I would encourage people to really find what makes them happy and do it.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Is there anything else you want to share or to add?
I'm good, man. I feel like I gave you guys enough.
Yeah, man. Thank you for your vulnerability, for your openness, for your gentleness with us, and also for taking the time and passing the 1 hour mark. And I apologize for that. Thank you for all that you share with us, Brandon. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. I feel like you are a body like action body, because
Nice.
like we share is just I was saying, man, this guy is like all action guy. So I resonate with you a lot. Thank you for the interview. Thank you for your wisdom shared with us. Where we can find you on the internet, Brandon?
You can find me at brandontylerwebb.com. It's my full name.com. I'm at Brandon T Webb on Instagram and Twitter as well.
Thank you for let us know. We will make sure we add this to the show notes. And please, if you have any resource or anything you want to include in the show notes, and if you or Angie can send it to us, we'll gladly include. And to the listeners, recommended. I'm going to buy Mastering the Fear and also Total Focus, which really resonates with me. And Brandon, thank you for being in Disrupt Everything podcast series. And espero verte pronto en New York o en Valencia o Spain, España.
Sí.
And gracias.
Yeah, muchas gracias.
Well, you had Brandon Tyler Webb with fear, vulnerability, execution, action, purpose, mentality, mindset, and this is what life is about. Just keeping moving, is keep on moving, is taking action, and disrupt, because if you don't disrupt, you'll be disrupted, and this is gonna be painful. So take the lead, and take what Brandon shared with us and lead by example as he did it, and he's doing it. And thank you for being in Disrupt Everything podcast series, and make sure you check Brandon Tyler Webb books and website, Brandon Webb. Disrupt Everything podcast series. I'm Isra Garciaa, and thank you for beating my rusty English and my sometimes really strong accent in English. I know that, but it's the way I am. I'm the way I'm wired. Take care, enjoy, and have a good journey.
Esto ha sido Disrupt Everything by Isra Garciaa. Encuentra el riesgo antes de que el riesgo te encuentre a ti.